It was midnight and everything was quiet. The city lights outside Jalen's window blinked like tired eyes. He had just come home from a long day at work, his shoulders heavy and his eyes burning. The apartment was small, old, and smelled a little like burned toast. Jalen didn't care, it was his home. And at least it was quiet. He took off his boots, threw his jacket on the chair, and was just about to lie down on the couch when he heard it. A knock, soft, barely there, but it was real. He froze. No one ever knocked at this hour. He waited. Maybe he imagined it. Then the knock came again. A little louder, a little faster. He walked to the door slowly, confused and cautious. Maybe it was a neighbor or someone lost. He looked through the peephole and what he saw made his heart skip. A girl, maybe 20, stood outside. She wasn't human, he could tell. Her skin was a soft purple color, her hair long and silver, and her eyes glowed faintly like stars underwater. She wore a thin jacket and held a small bag close to her chest. She looked tired, cold, and scared before Jalen could speak. She looked straight at the peephole and whispered, "Please." Just one night, his hand hovered over the door lock. He didn't know her. She could be dangerous. But something in her voice and her eyes made him open the door anyway. He didn't say anything, just stepped aside. She walked in slowly, looking around like she was entering a memory. Then she sat on the couch and hugged her bag tightly. "I used to live here," she said softly. "A long time ago." Jalen blinked, confused. "This is my apartment," he said carefully. She nodded. "Yes, now it is." He stood there, not sure what to do. She looked thin, like she hadn't eaten in days, and her shoes were wet. Jalen went to the kitchen and poured her a glass of water. She took it with both hands and sipped slowly, her hands shaking. "I'm not here to steal anything," she said. "I just need one night." Jalen nodded slowly. "You can sleep on the couch." "Thank you," she whispered. And for the first time, she smiled. It was small and sad, but it was real. Jalen sat in the corner chair and watched her. She didn't ask for food, didn't demand anything. She opened her bag, took out a small bundle of clothes, and without a word started folding them. "You don't have to do that," Jalen said. "I know," she replied. "But it helps me feel useful." She folded them neatly like a machine, but with care. Then she looked at him, her eyes soft but sharp. "I can't pay rent," she said with a half-smile. "But I'll do what a man loves most, and I'll fold your laundry too." Jalen was stunned. The way she said it, it wasn't a joke and it wasn't an offer either. It was like she was repeating something someone else had taught her. He didn't respond, just stared. She lowered her eyes and kept folding. The room went silent again. Only the quiet hum of the old heater filled the space. "Why this place?" Jalen asked after a long pause. She looked up. "Because it's the only place I remember feeling safe." "Were you born here?" "No," she said. "I was brought here as part of the Refugee Adoption Act. But my family disappeared." Jalen felt something twist inside him. He had heard stories of aliens being taken in, and then abandoned later when they became too much trouble. Sella, if that was her name, might be one of them. He looked at her again, really looked. She had scars on her hands. Her clothes were stitched together by hand, and her eyes looked much older than her face. She was tired, not just from the day, but from life. She wasn't lying, at least not fully. And even if she was, he had nothing left to lose anyway. "You can stay one night," Jalen said. "But that's it." She nodded quietly. Then, without asking, she started folding his pile of laundry in the corner. Jalen didn't stop her. For the first time in weeks, the apartment felt less lonely. He watched her move, careful, quiet and almost invisible. And he wondered, just for a second, what kind of life she had run from, but he didn't ask. Not yet. The morning light slipped through the dusty window blinds. Jalen woke up on the chair, stiff and sore. The apartment smelled different, not like toast or sweat or the usual dust. It smelled like spices, warm bread, and something sweet. He blinked and looked toward the kitchen. There she was, Sella, the strange alien girl from last night. She was standing by the stove, her silver hair tied up in a messy knot. She wore one of his old shirts, oversized and hanging off her shoulders. She moved quietly, like she had lived there for years. Jalen didn't say anything, just watched her. She placed 2 plates on the table, bread, eggs, and some kind of blue fruit. "I found them in your fridge," she said softly. "I hope it's okay." He nodded, still half asleep. She sat across from him and started eating without a word. The silence wasn't awkward, just strange. It felt like a routine they'd done before, but they hadn't. Jalen cleared his throat. You said you lived here before. Sela looked up, her glowing eyes flickering. Yes, with my adopted family. Many years ago, he paused. This building is nearly 20 years old. I was here when it was new, she whispered. I was a child. He studied her face. She didn't look older than 22. But her eyes held memories no child should have. Why come back here? Sela wiped her mouth with a napkin and sighed. Because when I had nowhere else to go, this place came to my mind. It was the last place I felt safe. Jalen leaned back in his chair, still unsure of what to believe. She wasn't just another lost girl. There was something strange about her, something off. And not just the glowing eyes or the alien skin. It was the way she carried pain like it was normal, like it was her shadow after breakfast. Sela started folding the rest of his laundry again. She moved fast and careful, like she'd done it 1,000 times. Why do you fold laundry like a machine? He asked. She smiled softly. Because that's how I was trained. Jalen frowned. Trained? Sela hesitated, then said, My people were given roles by the humans who took us in. I was taught to serve quietly, politely, without question. Jalen felt a chill crawl up his neck. That doesn't sound like adoption. It wasn't, she said. Not really. A sudden knock at the door made both of them freeze. Sela's body tensed and she slid silently behind the curtain. Jalen peeked through the peephole. It was a man in a black coat, tall and pale. He didn't look like a normal person. Something about him felt wrong. The man knocked again, this time harder. Then he spoke through the door. Apartment 3A, we are looking for a non-registered guest. Jalen didn't answer. The man waited for a few seconds, then turned and walked away. Jalen waited until the hallway was quiet again, then locked the door tight. Sela came out, shaking, her eyes wide with fear. They found me, she said, already. Who was that? Hunters, she whispered. They work for the registry office, but they're not human anymore. Jalen stared at her, confused. What does that mean? They've been altered. They can sense people like me. Jalen rubbed his face. Trying to think, he didn't sign up for this. He didn't want this kind of trouble, but leaving her outside now would be the same as killing her. You can stay for a while, he said quietly. But you have to tell me the truth. Sela looked down, then slowly pulled something out of her small bag. A glowing crystal the size of a coin, pulsing gently with light. What is that? It's my memory, she said. Everything I am is inside this. Jalen blinked. You mean, like a flash drive? Sela smiled. Something like that. But deeper, it holds feelings, voices, faces. Everything I ever knew. She held it close, as if it were alive. But it's dying, she said. If it dies, I forget everything. Jalen's heart sank a little. She wasn't just a girl on the run. She was holding on to the last piece of herself. And that piece was breaking. I just wanted to see this place one more time before I forget, Sela said, voice cracking. I wanted to fold laundry one last time. To remember what peace felt like. Jalen stared at her, speechless, in his small apartment. In his broken life, he had found something unexpected. A girl not just running from the world, but from time. From her own vanishing memories, he stood up and walked to the window. The street outside looked normal, but he knew that wasn't true anymore. Okay, he said, you stay here. We'll figure it out together. Sela looked at him, surprised. You mean it? Jalen nodded. Yeah, but if you're gonna stay, you better teach me how to fold laundry like that. For the first time, she laughed. It was soft, broken, but beautiful. The sky outside was cloudy and dull. Inside the apartment, everything looked normal, quiet, peaceful, like nothing strange had happened. But things had changed since Sela arrived. The air felt different. Jalen could feel it in the way he breathed, in the way the shadows moved. She wasn't just some poor girl hiding from the system. She was carrying something powerful and dangerous. Jalen tried to focus on work from his old laptop, but every few minutes, he looked over. There she was again, folding clothes. Not just his laundry now. She had gone through his drawers and found clothes that had been stuffed away for years. She ironed old shirts, matched socks, even folded towels into perfect rectangles, and every time she finished one pile, she smiled a little, like it gave her a reason to keep going. You don't have to do all that, Jalen said from his chair. She didn't even look up. It helps me feel real. That answer stuck with him. He wanted to ask what she meant, but part of him didn't want to know. He was afraid the truth would be too big Too heavy for his small life. Later that evening, Jalen walked into the kitchen to get water. He saw Sela sitting on the floor, not folding, not moving. She was staring at something glowing in her hands. The crystal, the light inside it was flickering now, weak and slow, like it was running out of energy. She didn't see him standing there. She was whispering something in her language. Soft and strange sounds. Her voice trembled and her eyes were wet. Jalen didn't interrupt. He just stepped back and let her finish whatever goodbye she was trying to say. When she stood up, she wiped her face quickly. "Sorry," she said. "Sometimes I forget where I am." Jalen shook his head. "You're not alone here," she nodded, but didn't smile this time. "I know," she said. "That's what scares me that night." He couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her words, about that glowing crystal, and the way she folded clothes like it was the last thing keeping her from falling apart. He got up around midnight to get a drink, and there she was again. Still folding, still folding. "Don't you sleep?" he asked, voice low. "I used to," she said. "But now, sleep is dangerous." Jalen sat beside her on the couch. He picked up a shirt and started folding it like she did. She laughed softly. "That's terrible." He chuckled too. "Then teach me," so she did. They sat on the floor, folding laundry together like two old friends. And for a short while they forgot the world outside, forgot about the hunter, the glowing crystal, and the fear in her heart. But the peace didn't last. The next morning, Jalen stepped outside to take out the trash. Across the street, parked under a dying streetlight, was a black car, the same car from the day before, and someone was sitting inside watching. He went back in quickly and locked the door. "They're back," he said. Sela's face went pale. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just picked up her bag and said, "We have to go." "Wait, we can't just run," Jalen said. "They'll find you again." She looked at him, eyes glowing brighter now. "You don't understand what they want from me," she said. "Then make me understand," he said back louder than he meant to. She froze, then slowly sat down and opened her bag again. She took out something new, another small crystal, darker than the first. "This," she said, "is a backup memory, but it's encrypted." "Encrypted? It only opens when I'm connected to my home system," she explained. "But the original system was destroyed years ago." Jalen rubbed his eyes, feeling a headache coming. "So you're telling me that inside that thing is something important?" "Not something," she said. "Everything." She stood up, and for the first time, her voice was cold and sharp. "The reason they're hunting me isn't because I'm illegal. It's because I carry the code that could unlock thousands of locked systems, ships, weapons, archives. I'm not just a girl. Jalen, I'm a walking key." Jalen stared at her, his mind racing. She wasn't folding laundry because she liked chores. She was folding laundry because she was trained to serve, to stay quiet, to be invisible. It was how she survived, but now, survival wasn't enough. "We have to run," she said. "But I don't want to run alone." Jalen looked at her, really looked. He saw the pain, the fear, the strength she tried to hide. He nodded slowly. "Then let's pack," he said, "but one thing first." "What?" "You still owe me a lesson on how to fold these damn socks, right?" She smiled again, this time wider, and even though danger was near, for a brief moment, just one, everything felt almost normal again. Jalen's phone buzzed during his shift at the repair shop. No name, no number, just a message. "Is she with you?" His stomach tightened. He looked around, but no one else had noticed. The shop was noisy with clanking tools and engines whining under half-finished hoods. But that message made the world suddenly quiet for him. He didn't reply, just turned the phone off and shoved it in his back pocket. The day dragged, but his thoughts never left Sela. She was still in his apartment folding clothes, probably watching old news clips like she always did. She liked learning about humans. She called it studying kindness. Jalen finished early and rushed home. The door was still locked, but something felt wrong. He stepped inside, calling her name, "Sela." No answer. The lights were off and a strange smell was in the air, like metal and heat. Then he saw her. She was curled in the corner behind the couch, clutching her bag and shaking. Her face was pale and her eyes looked hollow. "They sent someone," she whispered. "He stood right outside. I could feel him." Jalen checked the window across the street. A tall man in a long black coat stood by the light pole, not moving, not blinking, just watching. He looked normal at first glance, but something was off. His posture, his stillness, his shadow. It didn't move with the wind. Jalen shut the curtain fast. They found us again, he said. Sela nodded. That one isn't just a hunter. He's enhanced. Enhanced how? His body was changed with alien tech. He can track memory signals like mine, smell fear, even hear through walls. Jalen backed away from the window. We can't stay here, he said. I know, she replied. But where would we go? He thought hard, then remembered something. There's an old laundromat outside the city. My uncle used to run it before the place shut down. Nobody goes there anymore. Sela looked up. Laundromat? He smirked. Yeah. You'll love it. That night they packed fast. Sela wrapped the crystals in layers of cloth and tucked them inside her shirt. They didn't take much, just food, a blanket, and some old tools. Jalen knew they'd have to stay off the main roads. The laundromat was on the edge of a dead zone. No cameras, no patrols, no drones. When they arrived, the place was falling apart. Broken signs, rusted washers, windows covered with dust and vines. But it was shelter. They climbed through a side door, stepped over old detergent boxes, and made a space in the back room. Sela sat on the cracked tile floor and opened one of the broken dryers. She smiled. Even here, I could fold, Jalen chuckled. You're really serious about laundry. She looked at him, her face calm. It's how I survived in human homes. They didn't want stories, just clean socks. He sat next to her. You're not in a human home now. I know, she whispered. But it still makes me feel safe. For 2 days. They stayed hidden. Sela folded and refolded the same clothes. Jalen went out at night to find food, always watching for the black-coated man. But then on the third night, he came. Jalen returned to the laundromat and saw the front door half open. His heart pounded. He ran inside, calling her name, Sela. No answer. Then he heard it. A voice behind him, deep and cold. You're harboring a system key. He turned, and there he was, the man in black. Up close, he looked human, but his eyes glowed yellow. His skin was smooth like glass, and his hands had small wires running under the skin. Jalen stepped back, fists clenched. She's not a tool, he said. She's a person. The man tilted his head. She is property of the Interstellar Systems Council. No, said a voice from behind. Sela stepped out from the shadows. Holding a wrench, she was, she said. But she chose to be human. The hunter turned toward her slowly. You don't get to choose, he said. But Jalen moved first. He grabbed a metal rod and swung, hitting the hunter in the back of the head. It barely made him stumble, but it was enough. Sela threw a blanket over the hunter's face, and Jalen pushed him into a dryer drum. They slammed the door and locked it shut with a chain from the mop closet. The hunter screamed, his voice like static and thunder. But the door held for now. They ran to the back room, breathing hard. That won't stop him for long, Sela said. Jalen nodded. Then we don't stop either. She looked at him. Fear in her eyes, but also something else, trust. I don't want to run forever, she said. You won't, he replied. We find a way to fight back. And outside, the stars flickered in silence, waiting for the moment when a human and an alien girl would finally turn and stand. The old laundromat was quiet again. The hunter's screams had faded, but the fear in Sela's chest stayed strong. Jalen watched her pace back and forth, holding the memory crystal tight in her hands. They had locked the hunter inside the metal dryer, tied it shut with chains, and blocked the door with shelves. But both of them knew it was only a delay. He would break out soon, and when he did, he wouldn't come alone. We have to move, Jalen said. Grabbing a toolbox, Sela shook her head. We can't keep running forever. She looked down at the crystal glowing weakly in her palm. If I keep this with me, they'll never stop. He paused, then asked quietly, what's really inside it? Sela sat on the floor and stared at the dull tile. She took a deep breath and began. My planet was a quiet one. Poor and forgotten, she said. When the humans came, they offered help, jobs, food, but they also brought contracts, machines and rules. Her voice grew colder. They tested our children, chose the ones who could learn human tech the fastest. I was 5 when they took me. Jalen knelt beside her, listening carefully. They said I was gifted, that I could understand systems, data flows, machine language, control paths. They turned me into a living key, she whispered. I could open ancient archives, unlock security gates, and fix military code with my thoughts. Jalen looked at her in disbelief. You did all that? Sela nodded slowly. But when the war ended, they no longer needed keys. They shut down the program, erased our names, dumped us into colonies. But I kept my memory crystal. I kept everything they taught me. Jalen sat down, stunned. You're not just running, he said. You're dangerous to them. She nodded. Because I remember too much. If the council finds out I'm still alive, they'll use me again. Or worse, erase me for good. He looked at the glowing crystal in her hands. That tiny thing could change everything. If it fell into the wrong hands, why didn't you destroy it? Selah smiled weakly. Because it's the only proof that I existed. If I let it die, it's like I was never real. They sat in silence, the room cold and still. Then Jalen stood, his voice firm. We're not running anymore. We're going to find someone who can help. Selah looked up. Who? There's a man I used to know. Worked in cybernetics before the council banned private code work. He helps people off-grid now. No questions asked. If anyone can protect what's inside that crystal, it's him. They packed quickly. Selah wrapped the crystal inside layers of soft cloth and tucked it close to her chest. Jalen loaded tools, food, and an old solar battery into a rusted cart. Before they left, Selah stopped and looked back at the laundromat. She walked over to a machine and gently folded one last towel. Jalen smiled. Still folding? Always, she said. It helps me breathe. They left just as the metal door behind them rattled. The hunter was waking up again. The city beyond the dead zone was full of light, noise, and patrol drones. Jalen and Selah moved through the shadows, sticking to alleys and old service tunnels after hours of walking. They reached a tall building with blacked-out windows. Jalen knocked 3 times, then paused, then twice more. A panel slid open, revealing sharp green eyes. Jalen, the voice said, "What the hell did you drag in this time?" "Trouble," Jalen answered. "The kind you're gonna want to see." They were led inside, past wires, blinking lights, and old tech piled like treasure. The man was tall, lean, with silver streaks in his hair and cybernetic fingers. He stared at Selah with curious eyes. "Who is she?" "The key," Jalen said. "The last one." Selah stepped forward and opened her cloth wrap. The crystal glowed, soft but steady. The man raised his eyebrows. "Well now, haven't seen one of these in years. You know what it is?" "Of course," he said, "but I haven't touched a living memory core since the bans came down." Selah looked nervous. But she placed it in his hands. He examined it with care, plugging it into a scanner with a soft click. "Most of these cores were wiped," he said, "but this one's alive." He looked up, serious now. "If this gets out, every system in the sector will hunt you." Jalen nodded. "We know." The man looked at Selah. "And you? You remember how to use it?" She nodded. "I do." He leaned back, exhaled deeply. "Then you're not just a girl anymore," he said. "You're a weapon." Selah didn't flinch. She looked him in the eye and said, "Then maybe it's time I stopped folding clothes," and started rewriting the rules. The underground lab buzzed with low hums and blinking lights. Selah sat alone on the metal floor, staring at the glowing crystal in her palm. It pulsed like a tiny heartbeat, one that wasn't hers, but somehow kept her alive across the room. Jalen argued quietly with the tech man. Core, they were talking about backup files, firewalls, trackers, words that once made no sense to her. Now they felt familiar, almost comforting. Core had offered a deal. He could duplicate the crystal, encrypt the data, and send it far across the galaxy to a dead system. A place where no one could find it, not even her. If they wiped the original afterward, the hunters would stop chasing. Selah would be free. But the cost would be everything she remembered. Jalen walked over and crouched next to her. "Hey," he said gently. "Core's ready if you are." Selah looked up, eyes tired but calm. "If I let it go," she asked, "will I still be me?" He didn't answer right away. "I don't know," Jalen said honestly, "but you'll still have today and maybe tomorrow too." Selah nodded slowly, but her fingers curled tighter around the crystal. She stood up and followed him into the main chamber. Core was already typing, wires running across the walls like vines. "I need your confirmation," he said without looking up. "You sure you want this?" Selah stepped forward and placed the crystal on the platform. "I'm sure," she whispered, but her voice trembled, and her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The scanner activated, beams of light sweeping across the crystal. Selah closed her eyes, and memories rushed through her mind. Her first folded cloth in a human home, The taste of sweet bread given by a kind older woman. The cold metal rooms where children were trained like machines. Jalen's laugh when he failed to fold a towel properly. All of it, flickering like stars about to die. Just then something changed. A red light blinked on Core's screen. He frowned. That's not good. What? Jalen asked, stepping closer. Core swore under his breath. They found the signal. They're already on their way. Jalen turned to Sela, panic rising in his chest. We have to run. Sela didn't move. No, she said. Not this time. Jalen's eyes widened. What are you saying? I'm staying, she said softly. I'm going to finish the upload. Jalen shook his head. They'll kill you. Sela smiled sadly. Maybe. But if I run again, they'll chase me forever. They'll find someone else to use, someone else to break. Core stood, tension in his body. You've got maybe 7 minutes, Sela turned to him. That's enough. She sat in the center of the room. Palms open, crystal glowing brighter. Jalen knelt beside her, voice shaking. I won't leave you. You have to, she said gently. If they catch you too, the copy will never reach its destination. Jalen grabbed her hands. I promise to protect you. She looked at him with soft, glowing eyes. And you did, she said. You gave me a name, a place to breathe, a reason to smile. Outside, a rumble shook the floor. Heavy boots stomped down the alley. They were here. Core opened a back hatch. Jalen, now! Jalen didn't want to move. His heart broke as Sela pressed her forehead to his. Go, she whispered. Make sure the stars know my story. Then she kissed his cheek and turned away. Jalen ran, tears in his eyes. He didn't look back. He couldn't. As the door slammed shut behind him, Sela sat still. The light from the crystal grew stronger. Her memories flashed faster, too fast to hold. But she smiled because this time she chose. The door burst open, hunters pouring in, weapons drawn. But Sela didn't run, didn't scream. She looked at them calmly. You can take the key, she said. But you'll never control it again. And then, the crystal exploded with light. A burst of memory, data, and identity, flooding the systems and vanishing into the stars. The city was quiet again. Jalen stood in the dark corner of a shipping yard. Watching the stars blink overhead, he held a small data chip in his hand. The only thing that remained of Sela's crystal. The memory had made it out. She had stayed behind to finish the upload. He had escaped through Core's tunnels, barely ahead of the hunter teams, but he hadn't seen her since. He didn't know if she had lived or if they had taken her, and that silence haunted him every day. Jalen lived off-grid now, moving from place to place. He shared what he could from the memory chip. It contained codes, files, names, evidence of the system's abuse. Other aliens started coming forward. They whispered Sela's name like a secret hope. But to him, she wasn't a symbol. She was the girl who folded his shirts, who fixed his socks, who made burned toast taste like home. One night, as he sat outside an old spaceport, he heard a soft voice behind him. You fold them wrong. His heart stopped. He turned slowly, afraid it was a dream. There she stood, her silver hair longer now, tied in a messy braid. Her skin still shimmered softly in the light. But her eyes looked older, stronger. Sela, he whispered. She stepped forward and hugged him without a word. He held her tightly, afraid she might disappear again. How?
He finally asked. She pulled back and smiled.
They didn't kill me, she said. They tried to reprogram me. But the data pulse corrupted their system. By the time they knew what happened, I was already gone, Jalen laughed, half crying. You blew up half a military server just to keep your memories? Sela tilted her head. I thought you liked girls who fold laundry. I do, he said, laughing harder. But now you're a legend. They sat on a crate together, looking up at the night sky. Sela handed him a small square, another memory chip. What's this? Everything I remembered after the upload, she said. I saved it, in case I didn't make it. Jalen held it gently like it was made of glass. You're still the same, he said. She shook her head. No, I'm not someone's tool anymore. I chose to live, to feel, to love. He looked at her, quiet for a moment. You know, he said, the night we met you said something strange. She raised an eyebrow. Only one thing? He chuckled. You said, I can't pay rent, but I'll do what a man loves most. And fold your laundry. She smiled softly this time. I didn't know what men really wanted back then. I thought folding towels was enough to be wanted. Jalen leaned closer. And now? Selah looked into his eyes, her voice calm and warm. Now I know, she said, what a man really loves most is to be chosen, to be trusted, protected, and believed in. He nodded. You're right. Love isn't about paying rent. It's about staying when things fall apart. They stayed there in silence for a long time. Selah leaned her head on his shoulder and Jalen held her hand, not because she owed him anything, but because he wanted to, in the weeks that followed. They disappeared together. The galaxy still whispered stories about the girl with the memory crystal. Some said she vanished into deep space. Others claimed she led a rebellion, but Jalen knew the truth. They bought a tiny home on a quiet moon. No weapons, no alarms, no trackers, just two people, a stack of laundry, and peace every morning. Selah folded clothes with perfect corners every night. Jalen told her stories of Earth, of beaches, pancakes, and rain. They didn't need much. Just each other. One evening, as they watched the sunset from their porch, Selah turned and asked, "Do you still think I fold better than you?" Jalen smirked. "Absolutely," she laughed. And the sound filled the air like music. And in that laughter, Jalen found something he never thought he'd have again. Not freedom, not revenge, but the simple joy of being chosen by someone who had once been hunted. Broken and forgotten, now she was whole, now she was his. Not because she had to be, but because she chose to stay.